Hi there. So remember this week we're talking about play. Today we're going to start with birth to 6 months old, and you might be thinking, oh my gosh, it's such a short period of time, but there is so much that happens and it's pretty nuanced. So we're going to really focus today on birth to 6 months old. We're going to cover gross motor, big muscle movements, fine motor, mostly hands and upper body, developmental milestones, and then the social aspect. So we have a lot to get through. When your child is starting out, just being born, you're so excited, as you very well should be. You bring this baby home, and what is happening socially from birth until 6 months? Well, in order, the baby starts to coo. All those great little sounds, moving on to squeals, pretty much of excitement. The baby starts to smile and then laughs out loud when they think things are funny. They express discomfort by crying, which if you've had a baby or been around one, you definitely know already. And they communicate through simple facial expressions, what they're feeling. So you can see if they're a little upset in their tummy or if they're very excited, they'll smile. That's the social aspect. In regards to gross motor, big movements, an infant will lift his head independently at 3 to 4 months of age. It's very surprising, it was to me anyway, when I started this a long time ago, to know that a baby at 3 months old can be on tummy time, propped up on their elbows. So I'm going to use my little froggy here. He could be propped up on his elbows at 3 months old and be able to hold his head. And this is great. You can see in the frog with the baby too, for back muscles and just strengthening of the neck. It helps your postural stability for when you're older and have to sit in a chair often. So a baby can lift his head at 3 to 4 months and hold it, and it can be on its tummy at that time. And tummy time is so important. Between 4 and 6 months, an infant can rotate its torso. So that's laying on the ground, of course, but they can start to move from side to side. Also really important to know, if you've ever seen the pictures of infants doing the same thing where they have one hand up and one hand out, that's called an ATNR reflex, an atonic neck reflex. It is innate. It's something that baby is born with being able to do, so that whenever their hand goes out, they look at the item. And then this hand is here because the leg is up too, and then they can more easily roll over towards the item. That primitive reflex integrates at about 4 months old. So you'll see that when they're about before 4 months old, and then they'll start to go away because they already know to look for the item. So they, might be playing, laying there, and then they look for something, and this hand goes up and this one goes out. Or they might play with something or look at something over there, and that hand goes out and this hand comes up. Try it out if you have an infant. Send me information. I think it's fascinating to see. So they're going to start to rotate their torso then as well. Infants can start to sit propped up with their hands for support. So if I back up a little bit, if I have my hands here, I'd be able to kind of stabilize myself. That's around 6 months. So that's the top of what we're talking about. And then between birth to 6 months, an infant typically rolls. Let's see, fine motor skills. Fine motor skills are developing, of course, and they have like jerky movements, and they have to put mitts on so they don't scratch their faces. They're really trying to gain control of their body. And remember last week we talked about symmetrical bilateral coordination. So if like a baby, an infant, will really use things like a larger thing to grasp and manipulate and bring it to their mouth to explore at the same time. It's not so much one-handed, it's both hands together. So birth to 6 months, by the end of that, they'll be able to manipulate a rattle, like hold something and shake it. They'll bring objects to their mouth to explore. It's a lot of sensory systems. They play at midline. So it's right, if you think about your sternum right here, it's this smack in the middle. They play here often. They can reach for an object like we talked about with the ATNR reflex, and they can transfer starting around 6 months from a toy from one hand to the other. It might not be a very smooth motion, but they will be able to do that. And they use what's called a palmar grasp, so they'll just grab stuff like this, kind of like a raking. Developmental milestones, we'll end with that. They establish eye contact. It might be fleeting at times, but they will establish that with the people. They'll respond to a smile. So if you are, it's innate, right, to look at a baby and, oh, baby. I'll use this for an example. Oh, hi. And you smile at it and the baby smiles back. Like, it's wonderful. Can you tell I love babies? Babies from birth to 6 months start to discriminate between people they know and strangers. They can also discriminate between a friendly voice and an angry voice. So if you do the baby talk versus if you're stern, not yelling, I wouldn't yell, but a stern voice, like no, they would know the difference between those two voices in the tone that you use. And they also laugh in response to play. If you do something silly, especially towards the 6 month mark, they'll think it's funny. So explore this. Tomorrow we'll talk about 6 months to 12 months. A lot happens then too. And then we'll chunk it a little bit bigger as we go on. But so much happens in the first 2 years of life. So I really wanted to start. And believe me, this is the play of birth to 6 months. They're exploring their humans in their life, their caregivers and people who come to see them. They're exploring objects and looking around and tracking. They can visually start to track as well. I can't wait for tomorrow, and I hope you have a great day. All right, bye-bye.